are live.
Good morning. Welcome to November 19th, 2025 meeting of the Commission on Ethics and Lobbying in Government. Over to Executive Director Berlin for the logistics of today's meeting.
Thank you, Chair James. Today's commission meeting is being conducted pursuant to notice and in accordance with provisions of the state's open meetings law and section 94 of the executive law. But the meeting room we're using here at the New York State Conference Center at 25 Beaver Street in Manhattan, for the conference room at the Commission's offices in Albany at 540 Broadway are open to the public during open session. And in addition, the meeting, so open session is being live streamed, and the link can be found on our website at ethics.ny.gov on the home page. And I can state that both at the Commission's meeting room in the conference center in Manhattan, as well as in our conference room in Albany, we have a quorum for today's meeting.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the public session on October 22nd, 2025. Are there any corrections? All right, sorry. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes. So good. Some by Commissioner Austin, second by Commissioner Harris. No, by all in favor? Aye. Thank you. Passes. Next item is the report from staff, the operations update to attachment B. Executive Director Furland, you want to give us any highlights?
Yes, thank you. Again, the operations report is under tab B. We have done in the past. The most recent data is in the first column. It's for October 25. Prior months count is in the next column. In this case, it's going to be September. Prior corresponding year, October 24's third column. Fourth column is this year, 2025 calendar year to date. And the final column, fifth column, is corresponding period. In this case, January 1st to October 31st of 2023. First page of the operations update has our investigation and enforcement information. You will see that last month the Commission received 8 tips, complaints, and reports and closed 22 matters. What that means is, of course, a significant reduction in the number overall cases being handled by the unit. And you'll see that in the number of pending matters, which has been reduced to 2006. The number of open investigations remains the same. 3 were open last month, 3 so that's a watch. The significant thing in the data is that investigation and enforcement staff is really doing a significant job in reducing the residual caseload in the agency, moving matters through through this position. All but one of those 22 closings, in fact, COVID matters. So the group is making an extraordinary process in moving through the caseload. Was there any questions? The second page. We have the statistics here. Requests, publications, and the like that have been handled by the unit the past month. Significant number of guidance requests received, 151, near record, not quite record. You will see that total guidance requests this year continues to run significantly ahead of last year, and last year was 60% higher than 2023. Again, we think the best explanation for that is the impact of the impact of the annual mandatory ethics training requirement, which applies to the entire executive branch and legislative branch workforces and their officials as well. There were no publications this month from the unit. Holidays are coming in December, and so there will be publications providing advice and guidance about gifting and the like that will be issued by the unit next month. And I do have to congratulate the unit on the extraordinary job they're doing in moving this really guidance request through the system. And the extraordinary amount of writing they're doing, generating high quality informal advisory opinions. Any questions? Page 3, lobbying unit statistics. Past month is not a bi-monthly month, so you don't see the high volume reports and amendments filed. Some did come in. The significant thing is the number of registrations and registration amendments received this year. Again, it's the first year of the biennial period, so they're coming in at a higher rate. As compared with last year, over 17,000 versus 11,000. Very, very significant increase. And it reflects a number of things. And one thing we believe, and talk about it a little bit as we get into it, but it appears as if lobbying activity again is headed for high numbers for 2025. What we have been doing, and I've talked about it a number of times before, you will see it in your book as well. The unit has been generating, along with the communications division, preliminary reports on lobbying data. We did it first in April of this year for the annual data ahead of the annual report coming out. We had early data for the 2024 lobbying data. And we have also been generating every 2 months following the submission of bi-monthly reports, preliminary data. It's not the final scrub data. It's not the all cleaned up data, but it's directionally a pretty good indication of where lobbying activity is going. And the most recent report came out earlier this week and circulated to commissioners. And it was put out publicly to the press, to the public. We had been planning, as I said at the last meeting, to convert over to a dashboard way of propagating information, which will give users a good deal of flexibility, not only in looking at the same kind of data, generating the same reports we have now, but customizing their views of the data and doing a lot more digging into it and digging across the various data sets. We go to do that with Tableau. A lot of work had gone into it because of cost issues that emerged, very significant cost issues that emerged. We're changing the platform that we're going to be using. We'll be converting over to that. And so the next 5 months of the report that you'll see, which will be September, October data, which is just coming in now. It's due on Monday. And the last day for the data to come in without penalty is going to be next week. So once all of that data is in, Emily and Carol and their teams, Jack Kaufman, a data analyst, will dig into that, and they'll be setting that up in Tableau. Slightly different version of it. And hopefully, if there's time, the December meeting, which has been at this. If there's not time, we'll do it next meeting. Any questions? Yes, Commissioner.
The dashboard is now moved to being open, live in December.
The hope is, in December, I don't want to get ahead of the group. They've just switched platforms, and they're not identical. I think all the work they did for the past report,
When do you
they'd be
anticipate it being live?
Emily, do we have a?
So we're hoping not to delay the getting data out. So the next one will probably be a paper report again, but then the following one that would be issued in January, that'll have the CSA data as well. We're hoping that one will be live on the new platform, and then we'll be able to have a full years of data on the dashboard platform. It was just, we're changing from the platform, and we need to make sure everything carries over and data check it all, just make sure it's all ready to go before we make it live. But we now have a path forward, so that's the good news.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Here's the bi-monthly reports, bi-monthly members, down 25%, what accounts?
Carol could probably provide more detail, but generally speaking, we're in the first year of a bi-monthly period. And so the number of registrations, the number of lobbyists who have to file reports hasn't grown to the level it will by next year. And so there are more reporting entities. And that's one of the explanations, as I said, for why the number of new registrations and amendments is so much higher. Eventually it will catch up to that level. And we think, based on the numbers that are coming in the bi-monthly reports and the CSAs, we've had one this year. As Emily said, there'll be another one coming in January. It looks like the numbers are up somewhat. And we'll see what lobbying activity and how that translates. But you can see the number of lobbyists in the top row have increased. Eventually they'll catch up to last year's second part. And the other thing I should note is you'll see that lobbying inquiries, which are always high, are significantly higher this month, almost 1,000 higher than in the prior month. And again, I'll defer to Carol on this, but I think we're getting a lot of inquiries because lobbyists are starting to get notices for the third year of their ethics training is up and they have to renew.
Right, it started in 2023, so now everyone is due again, and there was a bit of a glitch in the system that we worked out with ITS about notices going out perhaps to people. Well, some people are getting notices and they should be, and then they have questions. A few received notices that maybe had terminated off the system, so that was a bit of a glitch. Sometimes that happens, working with ITS, it's fixed. But we'll probably see more inquiries over the next few months as the people get trained might happen.
The bad news is that the inquiries are up and we have the glitch, but it's being fixed. The good news is that the group is capable of dealing with that volume of inquiries. We have lots of plans going forward to hopefully reduce that number. But clearly staff has the capability of dealing with those kinds of issues. So it's the positive side of that situation. Any other questions? Next page 4, financial disclosure. We can see that in October 143 FDS filings took place just this past Monday. And that October included the beginning of the academic filing period. Just this last Monday was the deadline for the academics to file. Those have already been coming in, obviously. So far, out of 5,387 notices that went out in October to remind the academic filers to get their filings in, 3,163 have now been received. So we're well on our way to receiving those. At the last commission meeting, staff was asked to provide a breakout by agency of the remaining notices of delinquency that had been issued for the 2023 year. What we've done under tab C, there actually is 3 charts. The first chart tracks the 4,170 failure to file notices that were issued in the summer for the May 15th to financial disclosure statements that on academics that were not received when they should have been, those that were still tardy. And you can track those and you can see exclusive of those that have resulted in notice of delinquency. As of October 8th, we were down to 18, 4,107. So that's the first chart. The second chart shows the breakout by agency of the 21 question that was asked, the 21 remaining 2023 notices of delinquency. That number is now reduced to 16. And you can see the spread. For comparison purposes, we also included the 2024 NODs. It gets a little bit confusing. Those are the NODs that were issued this year. So the filing year is always the prior year. So this year, 2025, the academic and non-academic filers are filing year 2024 again for disclosure statements. So you'll see that, and it's reflected in the data. At this point, a total 97 NODs have been issued this year. 48 of them were still outstanding. So approximately have come in just over half, and about half of those remain outstanding. In addition to the workforce executive branch, 21 that have now become 16 outstanding NODs. There are 20 some odd NODs, 25 issued to the legislature, and 20 of those, 21 of those are still outstanding. Those are processed through, they eventually come to us, but they're handled through the LEC. And then the third chart, as of October 28th, shows the breakout of the remaining filers by agency. Subsequent to the May 15th non-academic filings. So these are the individuals who joined the workforce after the May filings were due. These filings were due in 30 days. Right, the workforce. And there have been 470 notices issued to them. 344 are still outstanding, and those cover a period of time.
The chart which discusses 23, 24.
Yes, the delinquent.
Compared to the delinquent files are all current now? That's fine.
No,
No.
there's still 16 in the executive branch. That's it. Plus the LEC. Let me ask.
I got it.
Let me ask Melinda Thompson, Deputy Director. Yes. Melinda, on the LEC side, are those primarily candidates? Or were they members?
The ones on the LEC side are the candidates that ran for Senate and Assembly last year during calendar year 24 that were required to file the 2023 filing.
So we have that bolus of activity when we have the candidates coming in and they're required within a relatively short period of time to file financial disclosure statements. And it's sometimes a bit of a tracking down problem, system issue of whether there are people who end up on primary ballots in particular who profess to be unaware of having been on designated petitions and therefore reported up through the years and ultimately to us as having FDS filing obligations.
So am I correct for assuming that anyone listed here is not a successful candidate?
In my experience, that's the case. Melinda, do you know if that's the case for all of them, that they were not successful in being elected to office?
Correct. They were not successful in being elected to office.
Is it for the primary?
The
election, general election?
They're typically coming out of the primary because as soon as they end up nominated or designated, the obligation kicks in under the statute.
So
A little
primary,
bit of a technicality in there.
primary candidate is not,
Primary candidate is required, I believe.
is required.
Am I misstating that? Keith, Melinda, I believe that's the case.
As soon as,
As soon as you're on the ballot, whether for primary or once you're nominated, once there's a certificate of nomination, when you're designated on a primary ballot. Not to get too deeply into it, but as soon as you become a candidate, whether you're on a primary, whether you have a primary or not, in a relatively short period, from the time you receive the notification. So there is a lag from the time the Board of Elections generates the notices and they get over to the LEC if that's where they're coming, or they get over to us. And then the notices go out, and that triggers the obligation. As we enforce it. Any other questions? Next page is training. And you'll see a surge there in the documentation that we have. In fact, in the latest update, the total for October, with all the data that has subsequently come in, our book day was last Thursday, the 14th. The deadline for the filing by agencies of their data is the 15th. So a good deal of data has come in. So that 19,000 or so that you're seeing in total numbers has actually grown to over 33,000. A record month. And that is primarily live training. An extraordinary number of live training sessions were held. That increases the overall number from inception, the way we're tracking it. And we don't have everyone individually get the data, up to about 260,000 individuals in our database at this point, out of up to 330,000 we're targeting. We still need to get individualized information for the MTA employees, over 70,000, based on their aggregate reports to us, which will kind of top everything up. There may be some others that will trail in, but we're at about 540,000, and we're now for year to date at over 207,000 trainings having been conducted this year. Commissioner.
That's the MTA. Is that as a result of the?
The MTA has reported as of now over 43,000 trainings completed, somewhere between 43,000 and 40. And they still have some left to go. They've made huge progress. The training group has worked with them. They were using a module, an on-demand module that we reviewed and as division approved. And the trainings are taking place, but there are other trainings that are taking place as well. A couple of points. One is, notwithstanding that growth in numbers, and now we have 3 consecutive months in excess of 20,000. So August at about 22, over 23,000 for September, and October now over 33,000. What we are seeing is that the system, this dispersed system, our trainers, the various on-demand modules, including the HTML, the MP4 version, the HTML version that's going to be coming out soon, we hope in the next couple of months, the SLMS version of that, and of course, all the training that the trainers of the agencies, hundreds of executive branch agencies. When you put all of that together, there's a huge capacity for training. The fact that in those 3 months alone, something approaching over 70,000 individuals have been trained. It does show that the system has the capacity. You know, we're still well under for the year. We're at 207. We want to get over 300,000. for this year. There's still back of the envelope calculations. You don't have the data for everyone. A substantial number of employees in the workforce who are eligible to take the on-demand who have not taken it. So it's being underutilized. And as I've said in the past, our goal is each year not to provide live training to everyone because that's a huge lift and the statute doesn't require it. The statute requires live training every other year. It's on demand in the intervening years. And the goal is to have the workforce essentially split in two in any given year so that half are taking on demand and half are taking live. And at least based on October, September, and August, it looks as if the system does have the capability, at least on average, on a monthly basis, to hit the targets we've been talking about. So for me, at least, it's a real eye-opener. You know, we have, in a sense, tried to pull out all the stops and encouraging employees directly to the extent we have them. We don't have email addresses for more than a fraction of the overall workforce in terms of making direct contact. But we are communicating through ethics officers. We are putting out as much stuff generally to the workforce as we can. We're trying to promote training. It's something we're hitting all the time. And imminently, I'm sending a letter directly to agency ethics officers and general counsel. And potentially to agency heads with the statistics for their respective agencies. How many individuals have received training, congratulating them on that, and pointing out the number who remain to be trained for year end in order to comply with statutory requirement. So we're trying to do everything we can. In addition, our training group has expanded the number of classes. They're doing specialized classes. They're getting more enrollment, so that's positive. They still have limited classes. If classes fill up, they'll create more classes. And again, we have the on-demand. So it's moving along. And then at the bottom of page 5, straight through, you'll see the statistics for the ethics training for lobbyists. So as of now, based on the calculation, and we have this weird situation that statutes have created, because we have training obligations in section 94 sub 8. And then we have training obligations in the Lobbying Act itself, an obligation imposed on the commission to provide ethics training for lobbyists. Lobbyists are on a 2-year cycle, biennial cycle. Training for them is on a 3-year cycle, even though everybody else is on an annual training cycle. But over 9,000 have received training. And the calculation is that puts them around 80% compliance, give or take. Sometimes it dips down. We'll see what the number is when the new cycle starts. Carol has, and the commission has approved amendments to the regulations to make it easier for lobbyists and clients to certify the training. It can be done now by responsible parties. They can do aggregate classes and so, worked out, bent over backwards to accommodate them. But we still have this slug of around 20% who haven't taken the training. Talk about the legislation. One of the proposals is to put teeth in the requirement and have some kind of penalty imposed for persistent failure to comply with the ethics training for lobbyists. It's really easy. It's an online module. We'd like to make it a little bit tougher, so there's some certifications in it. It doesn't take a lot of time, and it's a really good course. And so far as I can determine, nobody has been harmed by taking the ethics for lobbyists course or for any of our ethics trainings. And I think lots of people come out better for it. That's my perspective. But that's where we're going. My training. Was there any other questions? Page 6, compliance audit and review. Again, I think a very, very good story here. We have increased the size of the unit. We've added more auditors on the review side, taking someone whose responsibilities were split between reviewing financial disclosure statements and being part of the FOIL team. Talk about it a little bit. We've now added somebody to the communications group, which handles the FOIL request. So that person's going to be 100% in the FDS review part of the unit. Again, another auditor. And the numbers are showing it. You can see in the aggregate, and I don't have the total, don't have it on the form. We're about 1,800 total random and targeted reviews and random lobbying audits. Our target historically has been around 2,000 for the year. So we're approaching that. Last year at this point, we were 1,662. So we're running about 10% higher. We would like to get to about 2,200 aggregate. So we're talking about before on financial disclosure statements. Those go up and down depending on the election cycle, because we do get some additional filers when we have an election cycle and we have candidates or in the mix. So that number goes up because they become part of the targeted review pool. There's a little bit of a shift in years when they're running for office, in the even years that takes place. But in the aggregate, we want to be above that 2,000 mark, and we're achieving that. And you can see the numbers. The reason that there's a zero in the random FDS reviews is because they're completed. The draw is completed. We're required statutorily to have an outside entity perform the draw, and then we're required to have another outside entity audit compliance with the randomness requirement. So we do periodic draws. We're trying to control the cost of that by combining them, but that draw is done, and so that group now turns back to completing targeted reviews that they were working on. And then so see that the targeted group is going up, and they have some additional number to complete. They have a number of cycles they're working with. Local board members get all of this year's reviews completed before the next cycle of filings comes in May. So that's part of their workflow. But we are on target. Any questions? Communications, as communications group handles a lot of things, and not just communications, social media, maintaining the website, which is a statutory obligation, responding to media inquiries. They also handle our FOIL requests. Number was a little bit lower coming in this month, which is terrific. Outflow higher. With the website users, not as much as last month, more than last year's. The number continues to grow, over 340,000 total. Number of media outreaches and e-blasts have gone out this month. And other than that, we are moving along in communications front.
So how do we get the repeat offenders? In tab C, recurring delinquent filers.
They fall into a couple of categories. There are some who are kind of lost to the system. They have to be tracked down. And those can be referred the notice of delinquency process ultimately to enforcement. If we can locate them. Sometimes we have bad information. We'll have nominees who the addresses may not really be recent addresses or existing addresses, and that's a problem. It doesn't just affect us. It affects other things. It's been in the news.
There are even candidates who didn't even know they were candidates.
Right, as some recent press has noted, and that could be an issue. Sooner or later, everybody files. The penalties, there are not, and we talked about this a little bit in prior meetings. Unlike lobbying, where we have two kinds of ways of dealing with late fines. One is the late fee structure, which is out of the penalty kind of process. It doesn't require the commencement of the enforcement proceeding. Administratively, we are authorized by statute to levy late fees and to collect them. And we now have regulations, and the system works very, very well. And then for bad actors, we have the enforcement process. Those who persistently, notwithstanding late fees and all, just disregard it, they can be exposed to very, very serious penalties under the Lobbying Act for failing to report. Tripling of amounts, $25,000 minimums, it builds very, very quickly. So there's a lot we can do, and there are a lot of reasons not to allow those things to recur. On the lobbying side, we don't have the lesser option on the FDS side. We talked about the city. The city now has, and their compliance rate, we'll see over time, it may get better. It's not necessarily better than what we're seeing, but we only have the option of going through the failure to file process. Folks get a certain amount of time, then we can go to the notice of delinquency, and then we can go to the enforcement process. And there we have to make a calculation on how much investigation resource to apply to it. The enforcement division, I have to say, individuals there, I don't want to use names in public session, have been very, very, very good, incredibly good in tracking down the real delinquents and getting them ultimately to do it. But one thing to consider, and maybe we add to the comprehensive review process, is whether we should have a late fee structure as well for financial disclosure statements. The statute, as it's currently structured, states that the enforcement penalties are the exclusive penalty for violations of financial disclosure requirements.
I guess that's a pet peeve I have.
Well, the other thing we can look at, just as we're doing, and we have a similar issue potentially. We don't know yet because we're not quite at that point. But we could have a similar issue on the training side. We don't have penalties for that. And so we're doing a lot in the way of encouraging not just individuals, their agency heads to get involved. And maybe that's the next step that we take, to start reaching out in that way. We do, I should say we're not doing it. Melinda and her group do reach out to ethics officers in agency, and you'll see some of them there, where they have folks who just are not taking the time. Eventually they do it, but they take up a lot of our time to get them to do it. And we do apply that. And then we have to go up another notch. The organization structure, pressing. We'll make it up. We'll come back with proposals. I have next budget update under tab D and E. You'll see, go to the very bottom of the page. Your financial statement here starts at the end. You have done that first. You will see that we're projecting no cash surplus this year. There is an appropriation surplus. The reason for that is there's a delta between cash and appropriation. But the budget doesn't want agencies spending up all of their appropriation. We had been projecting surplus earlier in the year. It was 271. It got up to, it would have been at 462 for this. And the reason for the growth is we have 4 positions out of the 68 that we have not filled. And we're in the process of filling them. We have a number of requests into the DOB, Division of Budget, so-called BDAs, requests for approval for various things, including some grade changes, title changes, some salary increases, all within our current budget, and talk about it all within the budget we put in for next year. While we have been able to get up to 64, to a head count of 64, and fill those critical positions, budget has been asking us, pushing them to demonstrate not only the bases for the various changes we want to make, because we have good reason for all of them and provided justification for all, but they also want us to demonstrate to them that we will have the financial ability in the next fiscal year and in the following fiscal year to pay for those salary obligations. And for next year, we put in a budget, which actually covers all of that. So if that budget is approved, we're fine. It's very difficult to project out, not our costs in the following year, because we can do the calc, we can guess at what the general salary increases going to be. We can guess at what performance advances are going to be and factor all of those in. So we can do those projections. We know what our rental increases are. We have some negotiations. We have some strategies, for example, OGS, to try to get more space within our current salary commitments through renegotiation and accelerating things. Discussions are already in the early phase. We're talking about doing that. So in order to cap our expenses, so we can do that, and we can go out here until we do the projections. What we can't do is predict what the state budgetary situation is going to be. That's really on the DOB side. The bottom line is we're effectively tied up in bringing in new employees until we see what the budgetary situation is, until that clarifies. That effectively prevents us from making those hires in this fiscal year. So we'll have to wait till we have the budget. And the next fiscal year is coming. And that effectively that's up potentially our surplus. And it makes much more sense now to move those funds over to upgrading our technology. Been talking about it a lot. We talked about it as part of our original side letter. We need to upgrade first our financial disclosure and lobbying systems. They're old, they're incomplete. They lack a lot of features that they need. Neither of them, again, is complete. A lot of work remains. We've gone back and forth with ITS just before, months before the budget went in. They indicated to us that their business model is changing. They need to start charging for projects. They talked about $2 million to complete the work. We had a lot of back and forth. Ultimately, same day as the last commission meeting, 2 days before the budget went in, they refined their data and gave us 3 options. One option was to effectively come up with $2.9 million, in which case they could finish the work they estimated in about 16 months. But they couldn't project when they would be starting over. They would have to hire additional personnel. We know from past experience in working with them in a situation where we're paying for additional personnel. It takes them between 9 months and a year to bring in new people into their agency. So that would have pushed that off. We had the other option of just business as usual, and they estimated it would take 5.5 years to complete the work based on experience, just generally working with IT projects. Leave it at that. 5.5 years is never 5.5 years. Inevitably, bugs turn up, things happen, technology changes, plans change. We have been benchmarking with like agencies, municipal and state agencies around the country for potential improvements to our systems and have been introduced to a number of developers. We have a lot of ideas for improvements that can be made. We have now included ITS in discussions that we're having with developers. We have been collaborating with them in putting in the necessary application in effect or initiating documents in a process that's defined by Budget Bulletin H300, which involves ITS budget and the chamber working together to vet IT projects. You have to obtain your own funding for it. They don't provide it. But it's a means for getting approvals of projects, pushing them through the system. We have now put in a request, which would involve, and it's reflected in our side letter, additional funding in our budget. But we can start that project using the funds we have now that we're not going to use. It's about $462,000, together with some additional funding left over from a contract that was not fully executed with ITS. And that will give us enough money to get started on replacing ideally both systems, both the FDS system and the lobbying system, with new state-of-the-art, likely cloud-based but fully secure systems that will provide a good deal more capability to users, to the agency, and to filers use those systems. So it's actually a very positive development. We would like to have the 4 additional positions filled, and they are in the budget we put in. We also need these systems too. And so this is an opportunity for us to both. It's on the IT side. And again, ITS is with us. They agree that if we can find systems that will meet our needs, probably more cost effective and going to be more time efficient than for them to go out and hire additional employees, spend a lot of time and a lot of money. We think we can find them. And they're willing to work with us at substantially less than the 2.9 million they would project.
So we would expect to get approval to use the current surplus as well as.
It's been approved on the ITS side, and we would anticipate that we're not
Not
going to
for
have an
ITS
issue.
to do it, but for us to.
We would
On our side.
we would be working collaboratively with ITS. So the money, it will be a joint project with ITS. And we need, in order to go through the H300 process, we need to be working with ITS. We need to have an advocate in the chamber, and we have one. We're independent structurally from the normal operational structure with chamber supervises agency. We just litigated that successfully, that issue, but we do have an advocate who will be serving in that role for us. And the 100 process requires each agency, the executive branch, to be working with an ITS team, with the chamber advocate, and with their DOB team. And, you know, can there be hurdles? Probably. But the way we structured it so far, our plan is to go forward with this, and we'll you know, what we have to do, we're meeting with vendors, and they're meeting, ITS is meeting with us with vendors, and we're keeping our chamber advocate fully informed. We're moving the process forward. It will culminate in something that's moving forward now. December meetings will start taking place, ideally by the end of the fiscal year. We'll have it in some kind of shape. The good part is we will not be totally dependent on getting additional money. We can be able to start the project and hopefully complete major components, maybe all of them, within the funding that we have. That's this year. Next year, everybody saw the budget documents we had put in, including the side letter. We had some further meetings with our DOB team. They had an issue with reference in the transmittal letter, a couple of other places to our side letter. They didn't have a problem with the side letter per se, but they had a preference that the side letter not be referred to in the transmittal letter. So we resubmitted our documents, and based on further conversations with DOB and the chamber, we refined in the side letter. Previously, we've been asking for $750,000 as a single appropriation, or $150,000 over 5 years. That was based on indications we were getting from ITS going into that process. But based on the further discussions, we're just asking for a flat $750,000 to add to our ITS needs. And we were assured we will get the same consideration everybody gets in their side letters. We'll see. You know, there's still a good deal of uncertainty. I'm sure everybody's seen the reports in the press about competing projections of what the state's financial picture is going to be in the next fiscal year, particularly on the revenue side.
That 700,000 figure, that includes the IT upgrade as well as the additional 4 staff persons.
No, our main budget covers the headcount of 68. So it includes the main budget includes those 4 people, additional personnel. It also includes the grade changes, salary increases, promotions, everything that we have. Budget is in the budget.
So that, and with that, we produced a flat budget.
In our view, we may have some disagreement about what our current budget is. And in the event that would go into the side letters. That would be part of the side letter ask. If we have disagreement on
They said
that.
don't add the side letter.
But, well-
So I go back to, what is that? If we don't add the side letter, what I need to understand is that without the side letter, our flat budget includes the IT upgrade and the 4 additional staff persons.
No,
It doesn't include the upgrade.
it doesn't, because it includes the upgrades to our systems, but the 4 additional personnel are in the main budget. And we'll have further discussions about that with them. But the same amount that we were appropriated for this year is the same appropriation we're asking for next year. And all the funds we received last year were fully available to us in the current year.
And we can't carry over excess monies, right, anymore.
If If we have a surplus, the surplus, is gone. No, the surplus is gone. But we don't think, we have-
Add up.
we have other needs. We have IT needs, and ITS. Again, it's going to initiate the process, and so we will be, using that money to pay for the project, which has now been submitted into the H300 process. So.
I think the bottom line is that DOB has to. And we're waiting.
They have the revisions, and we will have further discussions. They're gonna have questions for us, but so far, we have not heard back further. And we had a long call with them.
Yeah.
And the only change they asked for, and this was senior management in DOB. I've been talking with junior people. Well, but we had senior management in the fall. The only change they asked was to take the reference to the side letter out of the transmittal letter. They felt that was side letter. Conceptually, it is what it is. It was something we were fine with. We didn't have a problem as long as it was understood that we're not retrenching from having a side letter. And expressing the additional needs that we have. Something we're gonna have to manage with going forward. And we're not the only agency, obviously, that's gonna be affected by state's financial situation. Only agency, we're not gonna be, people will be affected by what's gonna be happening in the coming fiscal year. More important the year after that.
Any other questions on the budget? Actually, do you want to discuss the bi-monthly lobbying here?
Yeah, if commissioners have questions, about the bi-monthly lobbying report, we had.
It was emailed.
It was emailed the other day. It went out on Monday, was it? We were shifting platforms as looks like this. It's pretty much tracking what we've seen in other bi-monthly periods. Some of the numbers have gone down a little bit. It's the first full bi-monthly period after the close of the legislative session. So there's less active lobbying at the state level. Obviously, local lobbying continues, and other lobbying, non-legislative lobbying, continues. But if there are any specific questions, Emily, Carol, anything else to point out? Again, and these are not final numbers. I mean, have to emphasize they're not final numbers. One thing that we know, and that takes up a huge amount of time, maybe another area for taking a harder look at, and for having a new system. Our system can't automatically catch discrepancies between the numbers that lobbyists put in and the numbers that the clients are. There's some natural discrepancies. Clients have expenses that can work in stuff and say they're doing things on their own and they have internal expenses. So that happens. But there should be reporting the same spending on lobbyists, the same passing through of expenses. So there are always disparities. Last year, it was over $26 million at the end of the day, which took months to sort out. Discrepancies between the two. We made the decision that the fact that the lobbying community has this issue where they can't get their respective acts together and get the same numbers shouldn't prevent us from giving the public periodic surveys along the way. The numbers. It's a long way of saying these are not final numbers. Last year we picked up another $26 million at the end of the day in lobbying expense. That wasn't shown by the lobbyists on the one hand and their clients on the other. But based on, long way of saying, based on trends, we think these numbers are directionally correct. These are the numbers reported to us. So these are the actual numbers reported to us. At the end of the day, probably the numbers are going to go up somewhere when the reconciliations take place. particularly since these are lobbyist numbers, the bi-monthlies. The clients have additional expenses that they report. It looks like we're on track to have a larger spend in 2025 than we saw for 2020. That's sort of the big picture. But there's finer data on, where the lobbying activity was concentrated that we want to get out in front of folks earlier. You can get all of this in real time from the PSQ, from public search query. You have to sit there. There's some canned reports that you can generate from it. So you have to have a little bit of facility with the system to do that, or you can search through it. But this is a tool we're providing to give individuals who can press or are interested in efforts to influence government in New York State. Who's doing it and how much they're spending and what they're focusing on.
I just don't understand. I just want to ask clarification. So what we do is, in order to monitor or measure the effectiveness of the report, we have a separate report from the lobbyists and a separate report from the clients that we compare. And so those numbers should be pretty much equal.
They're not going to be equal, but with respect, the amount of lobbying, the money that clients report they're spending on lobbyists should be the same as the amount the lobbyists say they're charging and they're receiving. That part shouldn't be different. Clients always have additional, they have additional.
Big media buys, they'll have big media buys, the big things you see, so that'll be at the client report. Some clients are also lobbyists, so you might see it in this data. This data is just about lobbying, mostly compensation. There are some we have, so they'll be having some of those media buys, but really we always look at the client spending to really get a great picture, and that only comes out twice a year. You get a good indication for these bi-monthly reports, but we definitely have to compare it. Compare the compensation with the client reports, and then the client reports also add in all of the media buys, the big spenders that might not be reflected. That comes out twice a year.
And they report to us with that.
Yes, they do.
This comes out.
It's statutory, I mean, we have regulations, of course, but it's statutory. Both clients and lobbyists and public corporations are required to file periodic reports. And as Carol said, many clients are also doing their own lobbying. Only their own lobbying, so they're filing both sets of reports. After we've gone through at least a year of doing this, we started doing it this year, 2025, putting out these reports. Once we have experience under our belts, then we can see how the preliminary data compares with the scrub data at the end of the day. And we'll know what the deviations along the way are and how you can predict the end number to the extent you can from the preliminary data. The point is, in the meantime, reports are coming out. You get a pretty good idea of who's hiring lobbyists, who's spending money on lobbying, who they're targeting in their lobbying efforts, and what the subjects of their lobbying, the bills, et cetera, the subject matter. And it's here. It's in a concentrated place.
Does that kind of data go onto our dashboard, to go onto our dashboard?
Yes. It would be there, and you would be able to do more
Right.
with it. And you could do, this is a static thing. You can't get under the covers. On the dashboard, you can dive in, you go sideways, you can look at other reports, and have a lot of latitude to do it. So it's going to be a great thing to have out there. And we have to figure out a way to, we'll still continue. We have to work out the details to have static reports that we can post for folks who just want to look at a report and not deal with the dashboard.
Okay.
And that covers, I think we're up to per diems.
Per diems are included in the book.
Yes, say that pay November 8th. They cover the September 10th commission meetings, September 22 administration committee meeting, the September 25 public hearing, the October 7th education committee, and then prep time for some commissioners for July, August, and September. Total is $14,342.68. So the year-to-date total is $91,371.20. And that will be up on our website that was tabbed.
And you want to do this, what, the staffing update?
Yes,
I mean, you talked about it to some degree, but
the staffing update, but again, we're not, in contrast to what I've been saying all year, we're not, we put the hold on recruiting for those 4 positions. We did have one resignation taking place in the audit group. And we are recruiting to fill that position. So we get back up to the full audit staff. And Gareth Parent, or Deputy Director of Compliance Audit and Review, is actively reviewing resumes and setting up interviews. And he's lots of applications coming to that position. So we're filling that. The other update is we still have 2 people who haven't met who fill positions in the training group. The assistant director of training will be starting in December. But we do have an addition in Emily's group, in the communications group. We'll be helping out with lots of things, and I'll turn it over to Emily to introduce our staff member. Emily?
Yes, this is Shawnee Cranfill, and she's our new assistant communications specialist, and she is helping us out already, hit the ground running on all things communications. She comes to us from the Studio for Teaching and Learning at the College of William and Mary in Virginia, and she graduated with a BA in Government Policy and Law from the University of Pennsylvania, and we are just so happy to have her on board.
Oh, welcome.
welcome.
So what's the title? What's your position?
The title communications assistant, do I have it right?
It's Assistant Communications Specialist.
Communications. And everybody will have the opportunity to meet Shawnee at this commission meeting, and the next hire who will announce when she's on board.
The assistant director's coming in December, you said?
In December.
Isn't that correct, training?
Assistant director of training.
All right. Next item is our chair report, committee reports. There's no chair report. I guess we should announce that we'll have an.
Yes. Yes, the governor nominated a new member of the commission. We received word from the Independent Review Committee on Monday that they had approved the nomination of the new commissioner, Linda Scott. Joining the commission last night, I received a formal nominating instrument signed by Governor Hochul. Ms. Scott will be joining us hopefully this afternoon. We can make a formal introduction. It's a welcome addition to the commission.
Oh, great.
Yeah, she'll be here in person, so we'll go through the details at that time. But it's a wonderful addition, and I'm also informed by the chamber that they are working on finding a candidate to fill the remaining vacancy. That existing governor's appointees. So we're a very welcome addition to the commission.
Hey, can I just say one thing real quick?
Yes, of course.
I just wanted to say, while we're in public session, how happy I am that we have a new member coming on. I think that's wonderful. And I'm really looking forward to working with her. I also just wanted to urge all of our appointing authorities to continue appointing members until our vacancies are filled. I think that the public may not be fully aware that when we operate at less than full capacity, we operate under a supermajority voting requirement. And so until today, when we now have 8 members, only having 7, we had to have 85% of the sitting commissioners agree on anything we wanted to do. That was with 4 vacancies. That's a preposterous arrangement for any public body to be operating under. And I strongly hope that other appointing authorities will fill our remaining gaps so that we can return to something approaching normalcy in our voting requirements, and so that we can benefit from the experience and wisdom of new colleagues as well.
Yeah, are there any committee reports? I know that you want to discuss the legislation, or the next item was legislative agenda. Is that what we're going to go into? So why don't we just move to the next item? Item 5, proposed 26 commission legislative agenda. Yes.
So, basically the committee, voted to adopt the 2025 legislative agenda for 2026 as well. The committee was prepared to unanimously recommend that we adopt that, but there is an issue with one of the proposals. So you guys want me to go through the proposals that were on 25? Okay. So in ethics and lobbying, we were asking that legislature impose accessorial liability so that people who actively participate or try to get others to engage in conduct that violates public officers' law and the executive law would be held liable. So that's from our 2025 agenda. We're putting it forward on our 2026 agenda. For lobbying, there are several proposals. One of which is to require lobbyists to impose late fees on those lobbyists who fail to timely comply with their training, to require clients to also take training, and to impose liability on those who fail to take training timely. We also are proposing that the commission be authorized to impose late fees on lobbyists and clients, should we get that to pass, who fail to timely comply with their ethics training. The commission adopted a rule that made the responsible party on lobbyist applications required to be a person who is responsible, but we're also proposing that responsible party be fined for intentional lobbying act violations if they engage. So part of that proposal was done internally.
What does that mean?
So it used to be that anyone could sign on the lobbying report. It wasn't necessarily someone who was a responsible party.
Okay.
And then, so now we're saying, okay, so now this person has accepted responsibility and they're signing and saying, I'm gonna make sure that we follow, the lobbying act and all the requirements. And so we're saying, and the next step should be that they should be fined in the event they do not comply with the lobbying laws. And in ethics, we want to do the electronic filing of financial disclosure statements and also the lobbying reports. And the impediment to that is that there is a separate law that says we can't require electronic filing. An agency can't. I mean, we can encourage it, but we can't require it. And so unless that law changes, we can't impose those two electronic filing requirements. Any questions on those? The open meetings law, we've discussed that and everyone knows that what we want with that and how that would help us tremendously if we could get that passed. But the one that, two members of the committee would have recommended adding penalties for certain violations of the public officers law. Actually, the 3 of us do. But then there's an issue about codifying sexual harassment. So the majority of the committee recommends it. One of our members is dissenting and he'd like to explain why.
Yeah, I've expressed this before. Actually, I have two concerns. One is just putting the phrase sexual harassment in. And I think discussions over the last few months have highlighted some concerns with that. I feel like we know, I think as commissioners, when an instance that might be a sexual harassment violation under a sexual harassment policy is a 74 violation, or at least we can come to grips with that. Same thing for discrimination. But I don't think that all of us believe that everything that might violate a policy is a 74 violation. And then my other concern, which really I didn't have last year, but I think have more, maybe even more than the concern I just raised, is putting monetary penalties for H if it stays the way it's written. And I think
Penalties for what?
putting monetary penalties for 74H.
74H.
If it stays the way it's written now. And I think people have raised this, that some of the language in H, endeavor to conduct yourself in a way that's above suspicion. I think, and I think this is something for maybe for further discussion down the road. I believe one of the provisions in the city's conflicts of interest rules has a provision attached to it. It says there shall only be a monetary penalty under this provision if the Conflicts of Interest Board has promulgated a specific rule. And I think something like that would make more sense, because I'm just not sure in 2015 if somebody in 2025 and somebody in 2035 will know what they should. Those things change, over time, and as circumstances change, it isn't people's view of what good government is changed. And you want to give people, if they're going to be subject to a hefty fine, you want to give them notice that their conduct is finable. And so I have concerns with that. And I'm sorry to be raising them at this late point. And I apologize to Dolly. But I feel like discussions over the last few months have just sort of increased my concerns.
So so it doesn't provide enough notice as written so that someone knows they're gonna be in violation,
Right.
and then you're gonna find them on top.
If it were rewritten, I would probably be fine with, or if it had some provision about promulgating rules, I would likely be fine with it. But I just don't think I could support penalties attached to that at this point.
And did you also have a concern about us being inundated, like our ability to handle that? I think you mentioned.
Well, I think both with that and with just putting the word sexual harassment in, I worry that we'll become a code of conduct board more than an ethics board. And I think there are other venues where some of that stuff can be fleshed out, like under EEO policies. And I think there's an executive branch office that does a lot of that stuff. And it concerns me that we might be put in that position.
Commissioner Groenewegen also would like to make a comment.
Can I just state that I voted against the inclusion of this provision in our agenda last year, and I wish to vote against it this year for all the reasons Commissioner Karras just said. I just want to be clear that I think this substantive change in law is incredibly significant. I think there's a host of questions unanswered about the proposal. Specifically, how would this provision of law, well, first, how would sexual harassment be defined? Out there, you have different definitions, as Commissioner Kara said, and different policies, different statutes, case law interpreting different statutes. We have a separate government agency in New York that's expressly charged with dealing with these violations, and they have their body of case law. Are we bound by it? How do the various timing requirements for filing a complaint for sexual harassment under the different laws and policies that are out there intersect with this provision of our law if it were put in place? I think it has enormous implications for our staffing requirements. I think right now we don't currently have staff who, staff have substantive expertise in a host of areas of laws, but sexual harassment, anybody who's ever practiced in that area knows that it's very fact specific, that there's a lot to be looking at. And I don't know that our staff currently has that level of expertise. I'm not suggesting that if it were to come up, we wouldn't develop it, but it's an additional demand on staff. And I think this, speaking to Commissioner Karas's point about this particular section of the law, I have to say, I think it's so poorly drafted. If I am out there trying to figure out what it is I can't do, I'm not really sure, because unlike other provisions in 74, there is an act. I know it's not a criminal statute, but there's an actus reus, a thing that you're not supposed to be doing. You're not supposed to be divulging confidential information. You're not supposed to be doing a whole bunch of things. But when you get to an H violation, you don't even have a prohibition. In fact, you have something else. You have no command to not do something. Instead, you're urged to do something. You're to endeavor to avoid creating a suspicion that you might be violating your public trust. And what that means, as Commissioner Kara said, what it might have meant in 2015 or 2025 or 2030 is anybody's guess. And I don't think we've ever had a clear definition of the scope of the public trust. Furthermore, if you look at some of the case law out there talking about this section of law, it suggests that what the actor needs to be doing is making some kind of decision in his or her official capacity. And again, I think the number of unknowns about this section of law are so many that if we were to attach significant penalties, I think we would probably end up litigating that more than anything else. Thank you.
So if I could just ask a question first. Commissioner Gerwin, you're saying your feeling is the same for both F and H, 74, 3, H and F? You feel the same way about the imposition of penalties?
F isn't quite as bad as H, because I can, but it's pretty open-ended. So yes, I guess I would be concerned with penalties for both. Absent a clear understanding of why, when the legislature crafted the law, they included no penalties. That couldn't have been an oversight. I suspect one good reason was because it's so vague or amorphous, or some might argue aspirational, but it's more akin to a code of conduct, which is so subjective, as opposed to a specific ethical instruction.
So you wouldn't for F either. You wouldn't propose imposing penalties. Okay. Just wanted to clarify, do you feel the same way for both or just,
Much more so for H, but
so we're just wondering, if we're gonna vote on that, whether given your, we should remove that from the equation. I'm sorry. Commissioner
No,
Yeri.
that's great. That was really helpful. Yeah, so my thought on all this is I absolutely see the criticism of particularly 74.3H that my colleagues are making. It's a very broad, very general statute, very vague. What I think we definitely shouldn't do is leave everything as it is. I think having identified the problem, which is that the statute itself is vague, there are a couple of ways that we could try to address that problem. And the main one, and this is why I guess I don't agree with Jim and Nancy on this, is that I think the reason why Nancy, you had a list of questions that I thought was a really good list of questions. What falls under that? How do you identify that person? What stops this from being a general code of conduct? I think all those are good questions. Fortunately for me, that's why you have an administrative agency to promulgate regulations. That is precisely to answer questions when a legislature creates a broad statute. So I think that the best solution would be to work on some regulations that would provide clear criteria, that would answer these questions in a thoughtful way. And I actually think that what the legislature did here in creating a broad statute, which implicitly, under the theory of Chevron that now the Supreme Court has rejected, but in my sort of old-fashionedness, I still subscribe to. But the theory is that why would the legislature create a vague general statute? Precisely because of what you all said, that what seems appropriate in 2025 may not seem appropriate in 2035. And so rather than expecting the legislature to keep revisiting this, we have an agency that's capable of revisiting it in a much more nimble and expert way. Because people keep finding new ways to betray the public trust, right? And the more you lay out the specifics of what people could do, the more people find new ways for improper influence to filter in between the cracks of what you've created. And if you just depend on the legislature to address that, you're not going to end up with a very effective system of ethics regulation. That's why you need an entity that can look at a catch-all provision like this, because that's the general term for provisions like this, catch-all, meaning whatever we didn't manage to anticipate, this is the provision that gives the agency the ability to be flexible. So I don't want to get rid of that ability. What I do want is to address the concerns my colleagues are raising, but to address them through effective regulations. And that's why, for me, but whether you agree with me or not about how we should address that, what we shouldn't do is have toothless, silly provisions left in the statute. So I think if you don't agree with me that a catch-all provision is a good idea and that we should solve the problem it creates through regulation, then I think what you are effectively advocating for is let's not have that catch-all provision. I think that's a defanging of the agency that would ultimately have pretty bad consequences for public trust in government. But if that's what you think of this provision, I suppose the other alternative is to hope that the legislature will amend and clarify. And if that's the case, we may as well do the work of drafting the regulations, and then let's propose they be codified in statute if you think that that's really a job for the legislature. The other thing I just wanted to say was aside from my general view that we should be addressing vagueness through regulations, in terms of sexual harassment, it seems we have a difference of opinion among the current commissioners, and because of our absurd effective supermajority requirements, it's very difficult to resolve differences of agreement like that because we don't have majority rule. But to me, it's pretty clear that the dual enforcement problem that the folks are raising, that there's already a DHR, there's already other state agencies, and there's already, of course, the civil litigation system that deals with sexual harassment. It's not a problem we can solve by pretending it doesn't exist. It already exists because I think I hope we can all agree that at least some examples of sexual harassment would pretty clearly violate, right? I think that's Jim's view.
I want to make sure people don't think, I think we have jurisdiction over some, if not most.
Right.
Sexual harassment in the workplace.
Right.
It's just, I don't think we have it against all what might be an example in every agency policy of sexual harassment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think putting the phrase in there may change that. That's my concern.
Could I just read, we have a provision that we've actually proposed that we had provided to legislators. And it would be a new sub J, in 74(3).
Now, is that part of your review or is that in connection with this? Okay.
That we drafted and provided to legislators who asked us for specific language. And it's simple. No officer or employee of a state agency, member of the legislature or legislative employee should make unwelcome sexual advances or requests for sexual favors or engage in any verbal, nonverbal, or physical conduct of a sexual nature, or that creates a hostile, intimidating, or offensive workplace, or suffer or permit others to do so in the workplace. And that's essentially out of the sexual harassment statutes and instructions that are used in sexual harassment cases. It's never to be as specific and consistent with existing law as possible.
Can I thank you. Just to finish my thought. To me, there's sort of two concerns that I hear about sexual harassment being in our statute. One is sort of a vagueness concern and a question about whether the body of law that exists in other contexts would apply to us. And the other is sort of a dual enforcement or parallel enforcement concern. There are other agencies that are doing that, and we would want to understand how we coordinate with those. So again, I guess my view is I sympathize with both those concerns, and I think that they're really important things to address. But again, my view, for what it's worth, would be that those are best addressed by regulation, and that no matter what happens with the statute, whether it stays the same or imports an explicit definition of sexual harassment, we're still going to have both of those problems, and we're still going to need to address it by reg. Sexual harassment is far from the only place in which we have dual enforcement jurisdiction over something bad that a public officer does. So to the extent folks have that concern, I think it's a little bit weird to suddenly get very worried about it in sexual harassment, when the truth is our packets every month are full of cases in which other agencies are investigating or have investigated. I would propose we should address that concern globally, rather than singling out sexual harassment as an area where we should continue to defang ourselves because of that concern.
I guess I view it as we're singling out sexual harassment now by putting that phrase into the statute instead of, you might be right. Maybe we should have regulations about all of these things, sexual harassment, discrimination, which cases we would take and which cases we wouldn't. But I feel like once we put that phrase in the statute, then.
But you and I already think it's in the statute already.
Yeah, well, yeah, but.
So didn't that ship sail?
Yes.
We will
Implicitly, it's silent. It's silent, right?
Well, we're proposing though.
Okay, I guess I'll use an example. I think somebody using their office, their position in their office to sexually harass subordinates in general is covered and is subject to our jurisdiction. I am not sure that a colleague telling another colleague a dirty joke and a third person overhearing it and bringing a sexual harassment, one joke is subject to our jurisdiction. And I think if we put the phrase in there, then potentially we're saying it is.
The joke doesn't fall under the case law that said
It's inappropriate sexual language. It could be of a sexual nature I mean, to me, it would arguably fall within the language that Sandy read.
So.
Mr. Groveland would like to say something. Oh, sorry.
Well, I'll wait to be recognized.
I'll give the floor. Thanks. Yeah.
Mr. Groenwegen?
You know, watching this conversation from afar, we were supposed to be talking about our legislative agenda for the next year. And so far, we've heard a really interesting proposal that rather than proceed by legislation, perhaps regs would be more appropriate. And I've heard for the first time of a new subdivision 3J, did you say, Sandy? I may not have been at the meeting where that language was discussed, and I'm not a part of the legislative committee, so I wouldn't have heard that, but that sounded interesting, but it was the first time I heard it. So it seems to me that the conversation we're having is a very good one, but I would submit if what we're doing at this portion of the meeting is trying to take a vote on our 2026 legislative agenda, and we've already heard two very interesting alternatives to the inclusion of last year's bill, one of which was regs as suggested by Commissioner Ayers, if I could please finish, and the other was the provision that the executive director quoted to us. It seems to me, I think we know enough to vote on the specific question of whether or not this should be included in our legislative package.
Go ahead. Commissioner Grove, the definition that the executive director read out was part of our proposal when this was on our agenda for 24 and 25. So, and we were tracking the language of the sexual harassment statute in our rule. So that has been, I'm sorry that you were not aware of that, but we have, that was what was part of this proposal. It wasn't just a proposal with no language. So, and Commissioner Ayers wants to address the regulation.
Yeah, I just want to be clear, Nancy, I'm not sure. I think you may not have understood what I was suggesting. I do think it'd be good to, all I was saying was, I support the idea of attaching penalties to 74.3H, despite the very valid questions about its vagueness that you and Jim are raising, because I think that to the extent that others agree with those concerns, we should be addressing them not by deciding to leave H toothless, but by adopting regs that would clarify its meaning. And so I think we should go right ahead and ask the legislature to attach consequences to it. And your concerns are what I see as something that should be addressed on a separate track, that is a regulatory track. So I just wanted to be clear, I'm not suggesting that we stop this conversation to start regulating. I'm saying that that's a concern that should be addressed by regulation, and we should go ahead with giving teeth to 74.3H.
Without supermajority requirement.
But we probably won't be able to.
We won't
because we can't do much.
do that. I'm sorry, Jim.
It sounds like we have general consensus on 1 through 7 and 9.
That's correct.
8, there may be consensus with respect to whether there should be penalties, but we don't have consensus as to whether sexual harassment should be included.
Well, I think we might have consensus as to whether sexual harassment should be included. You know, with the definition, you know, with the language we're proposing, possibly, I'm not sure. So yeah, so you're right. So we have consensus with 1 through 7 and 9. And with number 8.
So why don't we vote on those?
Okay.
And then we can address.
Okay. So I move that we adopt numbers 1 through 7 of the proposal that's in tab G of your book, and 9 as our legislative agenda for 2026.
I second.
I'm sorry, did I?
I move that we adopt numbers 1 through 7 and 9. And
It was Commissioner Caraballo, seconded by Commissioner Harris. Any more discussion on 1 through 7 and 9? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous?
Yes.
Now with number 8, should we send it back to the legislative committee to divide it up into 2 parts?
I think that's a good idea, yes. Yeah,
That makes sense?
that makes sense. 3 parts, however it comes out. Yeah, okay.
So you come back to us in December.
Great.
With a recommendation with respect to the penalties and whether sexual harassment should be included.
Yes.
And if it is included, that definition. Okay?
Thank you.
I think our process.
Okay.
Oh, we have
I'm
to
not
vote.
actually sure about that. You may have the unilateral power. I just don't remember.
No, he does not.
We will table it. Is that, should we move to table that? Or
The committee is different.
Well, I see the legislative committee actually came in with this proposal, so.
Oh, that's true.
We'll just send it back, we'll just send it back to the committee.
Okay.
For that presentation.
Thank you.
Does anyone object to sending it back to the committee or think we need to vote on that?
I think that we should vote on sending it back.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Vice Chair Ayers, seconded by Commissioner Karas. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No, whatever you say.
Oh, okay.
What did you say?
I think.
You're voting.
I'm opposed to sending it back to committee for the simple reason that the disagreement is one that I think exists among the committee, among the commission members. And we know that. And so to send it back to a committee of 3, when we're a body of 7, and we know that the body's not in agreement, seems kind of an unproductive use of our time and the expenditure of tax dollars. That's what I would think.
The body is not in it.
Well, I think the motion carries.
I think from my perspective, we're looking to have the legislative committee refine this proposal. Maybe if they do and it's divided up, there may be certain portions of it which majority of, because currently the committee is not in unison.
That's right.
So maybe they can come up with a proposal that we can consider in the full commission.
Bring in your proposal.
Yeah, and I think we should work with the other members.
And of course, everyone's invited to join the meeting, and I will give notice and try to accommodate
Because
everyone,
now we know what
what the issue
people's
is.
concerns are.
And we are proposing to break it up, Commissioner Groenewegen, a little and rewrite it, yeah. So,
That's a point of information.
Yes.
The rule for the chair not being able to refer to committee was moved by Commissioner Carabelli.
was what?
Your idea.
To what?
Not allow the chair to say, send it to committee.
Okay, so now we voted on it.
I understand.
So
I just
thank
wanted
you.
it to be clear.
I'm sure I would have done that. Thank you.
Let's consider item 6 when we come back. Let's talk about the proposed meeting, commission's meeting schedule, January 5th.
H.
Yeah, just by way of explanation, at the last commission meeting, staff was asked to,
Sorry. I thought I knew something.
Bye-bye.
was asked to look at the question of whether we could forego having monthly commission meetings and space them out somewhat. And we conferred, we're particularly concerned to make sure that litigations and enforcement would be left in a situation where we some act. require commission action. By guidance issues, as we periodically do 8B requests, for example, as we have today. That would interfere. We think in the confines of we've been doing it previously 10-month schedule. This year we have a December meeting. We think, and this works in terms of budget too, we can eliminate the January meeting, move up the February meeting. So it will be taking place relatively soon after the budget proposal is released by the governor. And then the next meeting, so move it up to February 4th. So we'll be going from January 17th, I think, then December 17th. Next meeting would be February 4th. And then the next meeting after that is currently proposed to be March 25th. We believe that would be workable, and we would suggest, let's see how the agendas are working out, whether we have too much business to get it done in a day or not, or whether there are things that are left hanging. That it's working okay through March 25th, then we can adjust potentially the last three meetings, the April, May, and June meetings. I would continue to suggest, I mean, it's not on the calendar, obviously, because we're only doing 6 months, but we would keep the July meeting likely. Typically, we don't have an August meeting.
Yeah, I thought where we left it last time was that we were gonna see if we could end our meetings by 2, and if that worked, we were gonna think about skipping meetings, but I didn't think we were gonna start implementing skipping meetings until we had at least experimented with shortening what I thought that was the resolution last time.
That's what I heard, but it sounds good to be over January. But in January, but that's where we left it. At least that's what my recollection.
And I guess my concern is I think we may have some issues come up that are somewhat, that require significant discussion and that are somewhat time sensitive in the next couple of months. And I'm nervous about this. I'll go with whatever everybody else wants. I won't use my supermajority veto to stop the group from going in whatever direction they think is best, but this makes me a little worried. Yes, I don't think today we're gonna be able to finish by 2, and I kind of doubt the next meeting will either. I'm not happy about it either, but.
I agree.
Anybody else?
Last year, if you remember.
Yeah.
I agree with you, and that's how it ended.
Anyone else want to comment?
Legislative history.
So the sense is that you want to leave it as
Be January,
in January?
a meeting in January.
Bill 1057.
Trying to be Georgia.
For the Albany meetings, we had moved the meetings back to 10. I think for the Albany meetings, everybody who's coming from New York to Albany usually comes up the day before. So could we start at 9:30?
Anyone staff, remember the issue has always been
Right,
around.
yeah.
Somebody from staff, the staff from New York.
No, administrative staff setting up the meeting.
Yeah.
In Albany, that was always the issue.
We have to make sure, but we think Emily Media Services, would that be an issue, 9:30?
I think we can make it work. I think we can make it work.
For the Albany meetings.
The Albany meetings.
If we have a meeting in January, are we proposing then 2 New York City meetings back to back, January, February?
December's in Albany.
Right, summers and winters, and so.
Be cold.
I think it was done because previously in February, there's been weather. And we've always switched it back to New York City.
Oh, okay,
And maybe January and February, we want to do it in the city
okay.
because of weather problems, potential weather problems. All right, so we're going to go forward with January 21st. That's what people want to do.
Yes, I would do that for them.
Do we need a motion?
We already passed
I
that.
think.
No, we haven't adopted.
Did we
adopt
adopt
this
it?
previously?
The previous one?
No.
We did.
No, it was only on for discussion.
So we'll meet, so look at the schedule, January 21st, February 25th, March 25th. And the other dates that are listed here. And people check to make sure that they're available those dates.
I'm not available June 17th. I have to be. That's something I have to do that, but you don't have to reschedule it for me. I just be able to meet that.
Just since one other person doesn't mean we have enough. Right,
I told you, in January.
Oh, in January, right. Oh, we'll have an additional member in January,
Okay.
so maybe we'll be able to get a quorum.
but you'll do it remotely,
Shall we adopt this schedule?
except for June 7th. Oh,
Over June.
You can go forward. I just won't be able to be there. I don't mind. Not if
I'm sure you
Well,
know.
I think there'll be enough people.
We may only have one additional person. We don't know that we're gonna get that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we know now that June 17th doesn't work.
The 24th,
The 24th is fine with me.
Does it have to be on a Wednesday?
It's not, I think actually I was the
When the
report
matinees
that,
are.
so that I could structure my teaching
When the
schedule.
matinees are.
And I'm not teaching in June, so it could be,
Would the 16th work?
yes, the 16th would be fine.
Or, so the 16th or the,
does that throw you guys off? Changing
If we meet
the day of the meeting, for preparation of the books and stuff.
Just we're changing to
Tuesday.
Tuesdays.
Wednesday.
Tuesdays originally there was some issue.
I
I
think
think it was.
I had a teaching problem on Tuesdays, but not in June.
And I think Commissioner Edwards had
you were teaching on,
Tuesday conflicts.
I'm not available.
but Tuesdays are now okay for you?
I have to make it, I have to adjust things to do that, but
You can.
next.
So we can either we can meet on the 16th or we can meet the following Wednesday. What's people's preferences?
Can you hear us, Commissioner Groenwagen?
I'm fine on all of those days. I would just note that, isn't Juneteenth in there, someplace?
That's the 19th.
I understand,
19th.
but that's gonna affect staff getting books ready for the.
For the 24th.
That's all I would be thinking about.
For the
We have to
24th,
move
okay.
up up there. We have to move up there.
Well, it'll be easier to get them for the 24th than for the 16th because it'll be later, right?
Yes.
Right. Martha, did you?
24th.
Good at the end of June and then July, at the end of July, because we have no meetings in
In
August.
August, right, that's true, that's true. So let's make it later in June and then later.
June 24th.
Yeah, 24th, okay. And that's gonna be in Albany?
New York City, at least.
Okay. So that's it, 10.
January 21 is on. 25.
Oh, and actually, maybe if we really want to rotate them, since we're doing 2 in January and 2 at the beginning of the year in New York City, maybe we should make either the April meeting or the June meeting and all. That way there'll be 3 in each.
I guess let's do the June meeting. I mean, that's right. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll do the June meeting in Albany?
Yeah,
On the 24th.
at 9:30.
I'll entertain a motion to adopt the schedule, January 21st. New York City, February 25th in New York City, March 25th in Albany, April 22nd in New York City, May 20th in Albany, and June 24th in Albany.
So moved.
Commissioner Carvalho, Second,
Seconded.
Harris, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
So I may have a conflict. It's like that's what it's gonna be.
We can May 20th, May 20th?
Yeah, it's the 17th and 20th.
May 17th.
17th through.
Right.
Well, you know, law school is on.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I have graduations too, I don't know when it is in May.
It's just been posted.
So what about the 27th rather?
That would work.
Is that the,
26th, yeah, the 27th, the 26th day after another.
That's people leaving Memorial Day.
that's Memorial Day, yeah. It's
You're gonna be.
Maybe reasonable, but I'll be remote.
Memorial Day is the 25th, so the 27th being the Wednesday, is that okay?
Yeah, I can do it.
May
What do you do with your-
Thank you, appreciate it.
Commissioner Groenwegen, the 27th of May, okay?
Aye.
Okay, so, all right, so
Now it's 27th of May.
Thank you.
we're not, so we're gonna meet on the 21st of January,
25th.
25th of February, 25th of March, 22nd of April, 27th of May, and the 24th of June. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, like I said, we'll take up item 6 after we go into executive session. Is there any new and other business that we need to take up now? All right, so I understand a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Public Office Law 105 and Executive Law 9411 to address matters concerning employment of personnel, pending litigation and investigative and enforcement, and other matters that is confidential pursuant to Section 90 of the Executive Law.
So, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, carried unanimously, so we'll now go into executive session.
You are live.
Welcome back to the Commission on Ethics and Lobbying and Government public session on November 19th. I'm going to ask Executive Director Berlin to kind of read out during our executive session.
Thank you, Chair James. In executive session, the commission discussed matters related to litigation and legal advice. The commission discussed an application for an exemption from post-employment restrictions pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 73(8)(b). The commission discussed guidance pursuant to Executive Law, Section 94, Sub 7, 19 NYCRR, Part 933, Public Officers Law, Section 73, Sub 5, and Legislative Law, Section 1-C, Sub J. In addition, the commission approved a decision in a substantial basis investigation, along with related matter. The commission discussed and approved Section 4 of the Executive Law, subsection 10F reports. The commission received reports, discussed authorized steps in several investigative matters. The commission closed 17 matters, as well as discussing other investigative matters.
Thank you. So we have another item on the agenda, the request for approval of Note that the Attorney General exemption certification pursuant to public health law, section 73(8)(b).
Move to approve.
Second.
This is the Attorney General's office requesting an exemption to post-employment.
Is there any need for discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Yes, yes. You guys.
Here's Austin or Austin Ayers?
Here's Austin.
They thought us were sisters.
All abstain.
Let's not, we're gonna let you get away with that.
So, I should announce that during, executive session, the commission, happily was joined by our latest addition, our newest member, Commissioner Linda Scott, who is with us now. Commissioner Scott was appointed by, Governor Hochul, to the commission yesterday. She comes to us, having previously served at JP Morgan Chase as managing director. Prior to that, she was executive partner and managing director at Governance for Owners. Prior to that, she was director of corporate governance for TIAA-CREF. And she has also served in the office of the New York State Controller, for the New York City Board of Education. She holds an MA from Yale University, and a bachelor's degree from Trinity College, and she's been a visiting student of the University of East Anglia in England, and she has an impressive series of professional and civic memberships and honors. So welcome.
Does she have our contact information?
Don't worry, you'll get a new.
We are providing all the information. Commissioner Scott has been immersed in the wealth of our learning, our statutes, our regulations, and all of the other things that commissioners have become familiar with. And we'll inundate her with even more of that in the coming days. But I know staff is very much looking forward to working with Commissioner Scott, as I know all commissioners are.
Very pleased to have you join us.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with you. This was a good introduction.
Either that or really bad.
Yeah, I think we just put staff out. You're doing a close, so why don't we adjourn?
All right, is there any new and further business?
I was going to make a motion.
Oh,
Well, we're going to have today in the north.
I understand.
Okay. Not there being none.
Welcome to our new colleague. I move we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye. Do you want to tell them they needed to?
Oh,
You did that. I don't know what to say.